In the last video on the 535i E60, we repaired all of the damaged body panels and prepped them for paint. Today, we'll use this inflatable paint booth behind me to get them all painted. Then we'll get them back on the car. So let's get into it on Rebuild Revival. All right, we're about ready to start spraying down some primer. I've got the inflatable booth up in the back, which is probably a little bit loud, so I apologize for that. But yes, all of these are completely sanded, ready for primer. All of this, the whole bumpers, they're all done. I did put some custom lighting in here. I just took a 100-foot extension cord, cut it up a bunch, and bought all of these little sockets off of Amazon. I think there is 18 of them total, and I just looped it up and around the top of the booth, and it is very bright in here. Now let me turn it off and you'll see how dark it actually gets. And there is the booth, how it is without lighting. And let's plug it back in. And there it is now with lighting. Okay, so I've got my stand in there, and one thing I want to do before I even start going in there is wet the bottom of the booth. There's probably a ton of dust in there or something, so I just want to wet the bottom, keep some of that dust down. So I'm just gonna spray water all over the bottom of the booth. And we could do this thing too. Okay. Now, I'm starting to get my gun set up, and I watched a video from Paint Society, which I really like this guy's videos. I'll put a link in the description down below. So I've got my gun set up how it should be, with the pressure, the fluid, the fan control, all of that at a base setting. And I am gonna take it inside and I will test it on that paper over there. So let's go ahead and mix this, and we will test out our spray pattern with our gun. Okay, now we're ready to mix our primer. We've got our primer here, our activator here, and our cup from Harbor Freight. These come with liners, and our primer is 4:1, so we'll be using this section here. So the paint is going to go up to this line. The activator will go up to this line. Let's go to 3. Actually, let's go to 2. All right, now let's put our activator in. All right, now we'll put the cap on. I should have been using one of these strainers when I was pouring the paint in, but this cap, they actually have strainers built in, so I'm not too worried about it. To prep the bumper for paint, we'll wipe it down with some wax and grease remover, let that dry, wipe it down with a tack cloth, and then in the spots where there's bare plastic, we'll use some adhesion promoter. I was having a little trouble getting the spray pattern down, and it turns out I should have been thinning this primer, which I didn't do. So this coat actually didn't turn out very well, which you'll see here in a second. I realize the primer needs to be thinned, so I'm gonna thin it before spraying the next bumper. right, this one went a lot better. All right, so we've got 2 coats of primer on the rear bumper and it came out pretty smooth. It's a little bit rough, but the front bumper, the primer was not thinned and it came out looking like Rhino liner. So we're gonna have to sand this one down smooth and probably hit it another time with some primer, as well as some of these spots that I sanded down through the plastic. Those need to be filled to become smooth. I think we'll see how it looks after I hit it with probably like 500 or 600 grit. Might do it wet, might do it dry, we'll see. But yeah, so we're gonna have to sand this one down completely. The reason why I think this one came out rough, which you can't, you can maybe see that. And anyways, this one is a little bit rough as well, because how this booth normally is there is a second blower that pushes air into the booth and then forces air out of these 2 big black filters. But inside the booth, when that air is being forced in through that hole over there, it just makes like a whirlwind inside of the booth. So what I did to fix that is I already had this air filter. I've got another one on the other side I'll show you in a second, but what this is it sucks in air through a hole here, filters it a couple of times. There's a pre-filter and then a really thick main filter, and then this is the exhaust here. So I cut a couple of holes in the booth and hook these vents up to that. So now it's going to suck. You could see it on the other side. It's gonna suck out through these vents on both sides. This will now be the intake, and then those will be the exhaust. So we're gonna see how that works. Hopefully it helps a little keep the dust from flying around, falling on the paint, and getting overspray on everything. We're gonna try this and see how it works. So we're gonna start sanding these down and then we'll get back in the booth.
I'm sanding through this thick layer of uneven primer. I used, I think, 220 or 320 grit. Alright, now we'll get the front bumper back in the booth. We'll wipe it down with some wax and grease remover, hit it with the tack cloth, and then adhesion promoter in the spots that have bare plastic, and then we'll shoot a layer of thinned primer over the whole bumper.
All right, so we've got all the panels primed, a few coats on each panel. And now before we lay down the base coat, I'm just gonna wet sand with 800 just to make sure any of the trash or any of the roughness is gone, which is actually pretty smooth. but just to make sure the final result is really smooth, I want to wet sand before we lay down the base coat. So let's get wet sanding. All right, so I'm gonna mix up some base coat here. Got our liner, our mixing cup. Here's our base coat, and we're gonna do 2 parts paint to 1 part reducer. So, right up to this line. Oh, a little over. Okay. Now the reducer. Put a cap on that, and then let's go prep the panels. Now I'm gonna mix the clear coat and spray that on. I'm gonna mix up quite a bit of clear coat so I don't have to mix it again. I should have mixed more of this, but I just wasn't sure how the base was gonna go, but it's going on pretty good. So let's mix up some clear coat.
The base coat and the clear coat turned out good on that first rocker panel, so now we're just going to run through the rest of the panels with the same procedure, a few coats of base and a few coats of clear.
All right, so we've got the front bumper here, and this is completely dry. It's been drying now for like 2 days, maybe 3 days. All right, so here are all the parts that we need to put back into the front bumper. We've got the kidney grills. This is the lower grill here. Fog lights. I bought new fog lights because these ones were trashed, and these were super cheap from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. I think they were maybe 15 bucks a piece or something like that. So it's just not worth my time to refinish these when I can get brand new ones for 15 bucks a piece or whatever they were. So let's just get all of this put back in the front bumper. To put these little rubbers back in that go around the sensors. I washed these as well. So basically just pop them out from the back side, put the little rubber piece on, and pop them back up. Just need to do a little more cleanup like on the chrome here. But other than that, that's all put back together. Got the reflector on the side. Looking good.
Now I'm gonna jump back over and start working on the quarter panel. We'll mask everything off and cover everything in preparation to paint.
All right, so I've got some of this foam rod. I'm gonna try and put it in this gap here. Just gonna shove it down in here. That looks like it's gonna work pretty good. That looks pretty good. Now I'll do the same thing over here on the door. I think it would have been good to have a little bit thicker than this. I think this is maybe 3/8, so maybe 1/2 inch or 3/4. But if I do 2 rows, I think it's working pretty good. Better than nothing. You can see it fills in that gap just to keep any paint from going inside the door. And then here on the trunk. Okay, so how I'm gonna blend this panel is I'm gonna spray the whole panel and then I'll blend it somewhere right up here. So I'm gonna sand everything down with 600, the whole quarter panel pretty much, all the way up to somewhere right in here. So let's do that. Okay, I'm about to start painting, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the whole panel in the base coat. I'm gonna stop the base coat somewhere up here. I may push this line back a little bit. Stop the base coat here, and then also clear. I'm gonna stop here, and then I'm gonna use some blender to blend in the original clear to the new stuff. So I've sanded everything down with 600. I'm gonna do base, clear, and then blender right there. Yeah, I'm probably gonna push that back just a little bit just to give me a little more space. But yeah, I've got everything masked off. It's all sanded. I just need to wipe it down, tack cloth, and then we can start spraying. I've got my 2 little filters here. Hopefully they're gonna suck everything down because I'm just here in the shop. So hopefully that'll suck most of everything down. I've got the whole car covered. So let's start painting. First we'll use some wax and grease remover. All right, now we'll do the tack cloth. We'll turn our filters on.
These first 2 coats of primer were really thick and textured. I don't think I thinned the primer enough. So I used a heat gun to speed up the dry time so I can sand it smooth before laying down the base coat.
Alright, now we're going to use this to try and blend it on the top, but I think I messed up, so I may have to do a little work up there later, but let's try it. Alright, so it's the next day after I painted this. It's been maybe 12 to 16 hours, something like that. And the paint does not look that good. It is very orange peely. I mean, it's okay, it's smooth. There's no like overspray, it's nice and smooth, but I may have to wet sand this. We'll see once the car is put back together. And in this area, I did a horrible job of blending. I know that might look a little bit dark, but yeah, there was a little bit of a run right here from that blending, and it's got a pretty hard line there. So I'm gonna have to do some work on this area, but not right now because I don't have time. I gotta get this car put back together and start on another project. So we're gonna take all this plastic down and put the bumpers and rocker covers back on and get this car put back together. All right, now let's get the rear bumper put back on. First, we need to put this bumper bracket back on. I've got this glove on because I cut my hand and I had to get a couple of stitches. So the plastic gloves kept getting sweaty, making the Band-Aid not stick. So anyways, that's why I've got this glove on. Put the clips back on. Yeah, so this bracket is held on by 3 8mm screws or bolts on the top, and then 1 10mm nut here on the bottom. There's a couple of things I still need to put back on the bumper. These rear reflectors, and then these little rubber gaskets for the parking distance sensors. So basically I just need to pop these out, put these little rubber gaskets on, and then pop them back in. So these are just held in with a couple of little clips. You could just push them to the side and then push on the sensor from the front side. Just like that. And then pop the little gasket back on and push it back in. That's that. All right, now we can pop the reflectors back in. It just hooks into one side and then snaps into the other. I've also got this little cover. Put this back in. Be careful not to hit that quarter panel because that paint is probably not fully cured yet. Make sure everything is lining up properly. And then you can tap it into that bumper bracket. This body line doesn't look perfect, but it looks pretty good. I can live with that. All right, and now we've got these 4 bolts that are going in basically right underneath the taillight. One comes out about here, one comes out about here, and they've got these big rubber and metal washers. So there's 4 of these, T30s. Now that I'm getting this bumper on, you can see the color match is a lot lighter than what it was. This is also a little bit dirty, but yeah, it's not perfect. Let's get it out in the sun. I bet you can't even tell. But yeah, here is the body line where that quarter panel had the damage. You can see it's not completely perfect, but it's pretty good. I still need to bolt this bumper in, so it may be sitting out just a little bit. Maybe not. Shut this and see. Not too bad. Of course, it's a little dark over here. In the dark, it looks good. Okay, there's a few screws going in from this side. They're all 8mm. All right, now let's lift it up and we'll do the rocker cover. So it's going to clip into all of these green clips here. There's about 10 of them. And then there's 2 clips here in the back, 2 in the front, and then about 10 T30s from the bottom. Yeah, I don't think I can get this under that door. I'm going to scratch it. Okay, pull it back off. All right, I went ahead and lowered the car so I can get the rocker up under there and under the doors. I feel like this side looks like it matches a lot better here to here. I think that other side, I know the other side was painted. I know a lot of this was painted. Looks good though. No more road rash, nice fresh paint. Now let's get it back up in the air so we could get the torques from the bottom. Yeah, even from this angle, if you look at the trunk to the quarter panel, that color looks the same. But then you look at that door over there. Look how dark that door looks. And I've actually got the light shining on it. So I don't know what they did to this door, but it's got some yellow in it that the trunk does not have. So anyways, let's lift it up. Okay, we'll start off over here on the driver rear. There are a couple of these type of clips I need to put back on that will go here. So I just need to push that out of the way. And then we'll put these clips back on. And then we've got two 8mm that go here. Gets that all nice and tight. So up here in the front, there's only actually one, but this piece needs to go on the outside of it. So we'll loosen this up so we can pull it out and then put it over like that. Now we just need to get this clip back on it. This one's a little bit broken, but it should still work. Okay, now we can go through and put all of the Torx back. They're these little plastic Torx screws. Okay, now we'll just go do the same thing on the other side, off camera, and then we can get to the front bumper. Couple of T30s up here on top. Got 4 8mm here from the bottom. Got some clips on the bottom. Put the strip back on just to finish it up. Looks good. Now let's lift it up so we can plug in the fog lights and the sensors. So we're just gonna plug this connector back into the fog light. I've got the bulb here. Twist that in. We'll just plug this in. Trying to get this vent to line up with the bumper. Good. That's gonna cool your brakes off. Now we'll get this fog light in. And the PDC sensors. Okay. All right, check out that front bumper, looking good. I just polished out these chrome grills. Fresh new fog lights down there. Fresh paint on the bumper. Everything's looking really good. And of course the rocker covers. And then we'll come around back here to the rear bumper. All right, that's gonna do it for today's video. We were able to get both bumpers and rocker covers painted and back on the car, and they are looking really good. I do still have some work to do on the rear quarter panel to blend it into the original paintwork, but I'll be showing that in a future video. So thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.